And there's something about the way your love shines on my face. Oh no, I can never get enough of you. This feeling can't be wrong. I'm about to get my worship on. I'm gonna sing a brand new song. Yeah, I'm about to get my worship on. Take me away on this beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Such a beautiful day.
Hello, and thank you for joining me. It is a great day to be alive. Why do I say that? Because you are living, you're breathing, you have the activities of your limbs. It's another day that the Lord has made. So why don't you just rejoice and be glad in it? It's not as bad as you think. So in spite of everything, put on a smile, put on, like I do, put on your good wig and do what you do, because God will take care of his own. But my guest on today, Mr. Mike Haddix, he has something that's been really burning on the inside of him. And I want to offer the opportunity to just share what God is doing in his life, how God has transformed his life, and how he's empowering young men around the state of Mississippi, and not only Mississippi, but just throughout the country. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank
I
you.
got to
Thank
touch
you.
you. I got
Thank
to
you.
touch
Thank
you.
you.
Wow, it's been a long time coming.
Yes, it has. It has, and I'm looking forward to this episode, and hopefully we can do some good.
Amen. I have to say this to my sister. Hi, Yolanda. I'm sure she's watching. I will say this, that the two of you are most definitely a power couple. And hats off to the both of you for the great work that you're doing. But you have come a mighty long way. Is that a true fact?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm born and raised in North Mississippi, a small town, Ripley, Mississippi,
Ripley.
and very small. Grew up in a household of a lot of kids.
Mhm.
You know, my parents were killed when I was 9 years old.
Wow.
In an automobile accident on Christmas Eve night, and I was raised by my grandparents, and from that journey, from that start,
Yeah.
I've taken the journey. And
Do you remember being 9 years old and experiencing that?
I do
What
remember
were
that.
some of your thoughts?
Well, I remember, the night that it happened. We lived about a couple of houses down from my grandmother, so my uncle came down to get me, and I was halfway at their house when he did, and he brought me back, and he got my little brother and sister. They were babies,
Yeah.
and I had an older sister who was 13. But that night, we went to my grandmother's house, and they said that my parents had been killed in an automobile accident, and the first thing that came to my mind was that my dad would never be able to see my kids.
My
and
God.
I just didn't understand why that happened. As a young kid at 9, I still remember that to today.
Yeah.
But, through this journey, God has shown me that, he is there.
Yeah.
He is truly there. And, you just put your faith in him. And we grew up rough. We
Wow.
grew up hard. And
How would you describe rough compared to where you are right now?
I would describe it as being, not rough at all. Not rough at all. I mean, when we say rough, we think about it as young kids and the things that we had to do. We had to work hard, which that was something that I think a lot of these young kids nowadays need to experience.
Absolutely.
So we worked on a farm and we worked hard, but through that work and through that training and through that raising, as my grandparents raised us, hopefully I've come to the point now that I'm a pretty finished product, I hope.
Yeah. Work ethic is something that everyone needs to have. Would you agree? Looking back, you probably as a young kid, like, why are we doing all this working on a farm? Just like, we're not slaves. What's going on here? But looking back, it was worth it. Would you agree?
It all was about teaching and learning and experiencing, and the things that our grandparents knew that we would go through one day with our own kids that we need to instill in them. Hard work, work ethic, honesty, and those kind of things have made me and my kids in the position that we're in right now.
That's a blessing. So you went from 9 years old, losing your parents, transitioning to that grandparent lifestyle, which sometimes people will say they're rough and more tough on us, but they knew something back then that we didn't know. And you just stated that. But I want to ask, how was your teenage years?
My teenage years was good. Like I said, I had uncles around me that taught me a lot of things about manhood. And unfortunately, a lot of our teenage kids nowadays don't have that. But my teenage years were good. I was in school. It was instilled in us to get an education, to go to school and try to better yourself.
Right.
And that's what we were doing. We were trying to get to the next level. I didn't think that football would take me where it
Mhm.
took me.
Yeah.
I thought education would do that, and that was the thing that my grandmother instilled in us is get an education. So when I came to Mississippi State, I didn't think I was that good.
Well, I'm going to ask this because the question came before you stated this. When did the football enter into your hand? Was it something you were enticed with, or one of those strong men around you said, "Boy, look, this is your golden ticket"? How did it happen for you?
Well, it didn't happen like that. All of my uncles played ball, all of my cousins, and it was just something to do. It
Hmm.
was spare time from working in the fields. We played sports, and we played them all:
Right.
basketball, football, baseball, and we ran track. So, as we grew, football was never even entered into my mind as far as me
Wow.
succeeding.
Hmm.
It was education. It was
Education first. That was most
absolutely,
still academics first,
absolutely,
then
absolutely,
athletics.
yeah.
That's amazing.
And when I got to Mississippi State, it kind of evolved.
Hmm.
And, I was on track to get my degree. And then the next thing I know, well, this guy's pretty good. And the pros come talking to you, and you
Wow.
kind of take it with a grain of salt. And then sooner or later, you're there.
Yeah. How did you know, almost like this is it? This is the it factor that, okay, I love academics. I know what my grandparents have instilled in me,
Mhm.
but there's another route that I must. When did you know that
Well,
this was it?
about my junior year in college,
Hmm.
you kind of get an inkling of things in your future. And
Yeah.
I said, well, maybe this football thing is something that might work out for me, and
Hmm.
I need to take it serious and move forward with it. But you still had to target on my degree.
Yeah.
So that was the things that that I had done all my life: played
Hmm.
ball, played sports, and worked hard.
It was almost like natural to you.
Absolutely.
It just came like easy.
It was very easy. It was very easy. And then
Yeah.
when you get to that level of pro football, you say they pay me to do this.
Oh,
This is great.
wow. Were you in awe? I mean, was it almost like starstruck? Like, what do I do? Or had your grandparents already prepared you with life savings, budgeting, managing money? Or was it like, oh my goodness?
None of that. None of
Wow.
that had occurred with me. I just knew that through me, I had kind of saved a couple of generations of my family,
My God.
because we really came up from that, and we had worked hard all our lives, and it was something that everybody had succeeded at that
Hmm.
point.
Hmm.
And I was thankful for that. Thank God for that. My grandmother prayed. We all prayed. Prayer is a strong thing.
Yeah.
It's a very strong
I
thing.
love to say prayer will fix it when you don't know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
He makes you look good when you out there being a fool.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
let's fast forward. Now you were in the pros and you were living. Where were you residing before you relocated back to Mississippi?
We were living in New Jersey. We lived
Mhm.
there for about 30 something years.
Mhm.
Me and my wife from college, Yolanda, and I got married my senior year in college, and
Mhm.
before I went to Philadelphia. So we went to Philadelphia, a married couple, and we lived in New Jersey for 33 years.
Wow.
And in that 33 years, I played ball with the Eagles and played with the Packers 4
Mhm.
years, and then I retired
Mhm.
after 10 years of playing, and we went into the mental health field. Well, I had gotten a degree after I retired at
Mhm.
Wilmington, Delaware.
Okay.
Got my master's degree in administration and human service. So my wife had always worked in the juvenile justice system
Yeah.
and adjudicated youth. So
Mhm.
that was our passion.
Why mental health? Because in African American communities, a lot of times people will say, "What happens in the house stays in the house. You don't need to seek counseling. You don't need to go to a therapist. Just pray."
Mm,
But I believe that prayer works, but He gives us wisdom to seek help.
absolutely. Faith without works is dead.
Absolutely.
And I think that, through our teachings and our learning, we experienced situations with kids in
Yeah.
the inner city in New Jersey, in Camden, New Jersey, which was one of the toughest cities in New
Hmm.
Jersey, that were going through different crises. And we just felt like we could help.
Yeah.
So we just jumped in with both feet and hands and went to work.
Yeah.
And some of the kids now even call my wife and myself from New Jersey, just thanking us for the things that we've done.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
just being a blessing. You saw a
Absolutely.
need, so you sowed a seed of time and
Mhm.
just being there for them. How and why did you shift to Mississippi? I do believe that God will wake you up. I know He did for me
Mhm.
to say it's time to go back. How and why did you return back home?
It's home.
Hmm.
I mean, it's always been home. Even in my mind, when we were in New Jersey, Mississippi has always been home. So we moved back to Atlanta after a while in New Jersey for
Hmm.
about 2 years, but it was still not home. So
Wow.
we just decided to come all the way back. And, Mississippi is a great place to live.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of slow motion,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to
Yeah.
calm down from the city life and
Yes.
get back to what's real
Yes.
and the good people.
Yeah.
And-
And great Southern comfort food.
Absolutely.
Of course, we're the hospitality state, but it's just something about having family.
Absolutely.
You feel the love of the people, and there's such unity.
Absolutely.
Such unity.
Absolutely.
So when you returned home, did God give you a vision of why you were here? What were you supposed to do? Or did you kind of have to filter your way through it?
I kind of filtered my way through it. When I got back, I was a retired
Mm-hmm.
NFL player. NFL pension is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of relaxed and laid back and kind of,
Enjoying the moment.
enjoying the moment and, healing from my physical play all these
Yeah.
years, and just kind of enjoying life. And,
Yeah.
and just received a message from the Lord to say, look, your work is not done.
Mm-hmm.
Your work is not done. And, there's things I hear. And it was people that I could relate to. I felt, I have 3 boys myself.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that I can relate to these kids and you get them with your past experience. And
Yeah.
you're a pro football player. Everybody wants to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you bring them in.
Yeah.
And then you do the work.
Having sons and being there in their life, what's the words of wisdom that you give them on a daily basis?
That I'm still dad. That I'm still dad.
Yeah.
I mean, you never stop being dad.
Yeah.
Regardless of how old your kids are, regardless of where they are,
Mm-hmm.
you are still dad to them. And advice always comes.
Yeah.
And, I find myself teaching all the time,
Mm-hmm.
even with my older kids, just teaching. I'm still dad. So you never stop being a parent,
Yeah.
regardless of what you think. When your kids get old and they get
Mm-hmm.
grown,
Mm-hmm.
you're still a parent.
And you have to be there for them. That's the biggest thing, of just knowing that I can count on my mom or my father to be there for me.
Absolutely.
But not only do you have 3 sons, but in the community, you're a pillar in the community, and you have a voice that young people, men particularly athletes, I do believe need to hear. What have you seen just in observations of being in the Golden Triangle area, the state of Mississippi, with our athletes? What's missing?
Well, I think that people are kind of isolated themselves in little corners and doing different work.
Yeah.
But it's not a collaborative effort coming from the people that need to be doing it. When I talk about that, I talk about the police department.
Yeah.
I talk about the school system. I talk about families in crisis.
Yeah.
I talk about the mental health system. I talk about the prison system, the transitional piece that
Yeah.
kids get out of prison and have to transition back into the community. So it's not a collaborative effort that's
Yeah.
going on. And that's what we want to bring to the Golden Triangle area, is
Yeah.
a collaborative effort from everybody.
How can we do that?
Well, first of all, we have to understand what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, you don't want to criticize, or you don't want to get involved because you think yours is better than theirs.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to find out what's going on. And I think people need to be a little bit more open
Mm-hmm.
about what they're doing to help these kids. So
Yeah.
they need help. The churches, I am in conjunction with my church, Bethel Baptist Church,
Yeah.
and we do some outreach. And the city of Starkville's been great.
Mm-hmm.
Judge Lydia Quarles has been great.
Awesome.
I am an officer of the court, so I sit in the courtroom and she refers these kids to my program, and it's a good thing. But
Yeah.
I think it's more of a collaborative effort that needs to happen.
Yeah. Those that are watching may not be familiar with your actual program. Can you just tell them the name,
Okay.
your mission, and the expectation when they come in? What happens?
Okay. Well, the name of my program is the Retired Professional Football Players Charitable Foundation, Inc. It is a 501c3. Our goal is that, like I said, we preach rehabilitation rather than incarceration.
Wow.
We feel like that if kids enter the prison system or enter the juvenile justice system, then their only purpose there is to become better criminals.
Right.
But we preach rehabilitation. We think that, by workshops, parenting workshops,
Mm-hmm.
by behavior modification workshop, drug education and awareness workshop, transitional programs in the community for kids that are coming out of prison, that need IDs, that need
Mm-hmm.
jobs, that
Mm-hmm.
need, some form of education to get on their feet. Because if they don't, they're going to go right back.
Right back into the system.
Absolutely.
And that's what we want to make sure, that they come out as they say, alive and well, but
Absolutely.
functional,
Yes.
knowing how to survive in the real world.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
wow. We're
absolutely.
going to be right back after this quick commercial break. I know that you're most definitely enjoying Mr. Michael Haddix as he's outpouring wisdom and just words that you just need to hear to know that your life is not about you. I know you believe that you have arrived, but God has a plan and a purpose for you to be a blessing to those that you are surrounding. I love you, and I'll be right back. Hey, we're back, and I just want to encourage your hearts to hold on in the midst of the storm. You said something earlier. If there were parents who had children who had, been incarcerated, because not only are there young boys who are going to jail, but they come out in their mind, they're still locked up as that 12-year-old or that 10-year-old or the 16-year-old when they went in. How do we stop this? What can we do as parents?
Well, I think parenting is a very crucial part of a young kid's life, and everybody doesn't parent the same.
Right.
We had those old school parents, that they knew what to do. They knew how to say it. But nowadays, you have parents that are not equipped with parenting skills.
Right.
And that's why parenting skills are so important, to teach you how to parent, how to be a parent.
Yeah.
And I think the kids will react to consistency, and direct information.
Right. And that love and the tone of your voice. I've learned when dealing with young men specifically, they already come up with walls up because they've been hurt, they've been battered, they've been abused by so many measures. And so they don't trust you. And I've learned that you have to kind of gain their trust, respect them, number one, because they're already like a loaded gun, ready to curse you out.
That's right.
And I'm sure you've experienced this.
That's right.
And once they see that, wait a minute, she's not like that, that's when they begin to just pour and they tell you their whole life story and your heart begins to just melt.
That's right.
So, my question is, being an athlete, being a father, where do we begin as parents to just settle down, to have that communication one-on-one with our children? When do we start? When they're young, or do we wait till they're able to communicate? When do we start the process?
I think the younger, the better. I think teaching and discipline needs to take effect right away.
Yeah.
I see some parents with very young kids and they allow them to do certain things that would really never take place in my household when my grandparents was raising me, regardless of how old you were, because it's always a teaching. It's always teaching.
Yeah.
We learn everything. We learn how to talk. With dad and mama, we learn how to talk. And I think a behavior modification course needs to be in the school. I lost my dad at 9. I think he instilled in me everything that I needed to know pretty much as a young kid.
What is that one thing that you remember now as an adult that your dad left with you, that you can hear his voice now speaking to you even as an adult?
Take care of your family. He always took care of his family. My dad was working at a shoe factory for many years. And when he finally got a better job, he was working on the railroad.
Wow. And
we bought a house. And it was a Jim Walter home. If anybody know what the Jim Walter home is, they don't build it all the way. They just build it. And then you have to frame it. You have to do the rest. But that was our step up. And he always took care of his family. He always said to me, son, when you ever get a family of your own, take care of your family.
Yeah.
And that meant a lot to me. I mean, I quit a job because my kids were home and my wife was working in the evening and I was working in the evening. And it just wasn't important to me to keep that job because my kids were home by themselves.
Families first.
Families first.
Was that difficult for you? Was it a a pride thing, or just like, I need to make sure that my family, my children are my
I
priority?
wanted to make sure that my kids knew that I was there and that they had the necessary training and the parenting that they need to go forward. And I don't regret it one day. Yes.
Somebody that's watching right now, they're on the fence having to make that sacrifice, because in the society that we live in, it's statistically shown that more single mothers, they're more single parent homes. We don't have the traditional families, the mom and the father. It's just not there.
Yeah.
And I say that when you said make the sacrifice, being a single mother, I just told my daughter this. She's graduating this year, and I said, I made a lot of sacrifices.
Absolutely.
I turned down a lot of opportunities because I wanted to be that influence in your life.
Absolutely.
I didn't want my mom raising my daughter.
Absolutely.
I didn't want my Aunt Daisy raising. I wanted to make sure, it's like,
there.
if I messed you up,
it's going to be
it's mine.
Absolutely.
But I, and so for you to say that, I just want to say thank you. Because sometimes as parents, we often think, well, should I take this job of 3 to 11 and my kids are left home? But I just believe being present in their lives mean everything. It
does. It does. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I thank God for my 3 boys right now. They're doing well. And it was God. I prayed.
Yeah.
I believe in the power of prayer. My grandmother always said somebody prayed for you. And I know she prayed for me.
Yeah.
Because when I got drafted in 1983 and at my apartment in Mississippi State, and when the Eagles called me on the phone, and I was the 8th pick in the whole draft.
Wow.
And my little sister jumps up out of the chair, and she was babies when my parents were killed. And she goes, "We're rich."
Wow.
And
she knew.
And she knew that was a saving grace that God had placed on our family for us.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And I say to the young athletes nowadays, is that nowadays you can save a whole generation of your family, through prayer and hard work.
But once you get it, because I believe one of your sons is actually operating in this, and I say it's a God-driven purpose moment, and I'm sure it's a reflection of you and your beautiful wife, Yolanda, of once you receive the wealth, knowing what to do, how to invest.
Yes.
Is that correct? Would you kind of expound a little bit more?
Yeah, Michael, my oldest son, Michael, he graduated from Columbia. He has an MBA. He worked at Goldman Sachs for 5 years. And now he has his own company. It's called Empowered 3D.
My God.
And what he does is that he empowers the modern day athlete. And what he teaches these guys, or what his method is that you shouldn't be broke. There's no way as a modern day athlete, as a pro athlete, you should never have to worry about finances again.
Yeah.
Simply because if you do the right thing. And that's his teaching. He has about 12 schools that he does this teaching to, and he will be here tomorrow to present to Mississippi State.
Isn't that amazing?
So it's amazing, but he grew up in it. We always lived a $60,000 lifestyle, and although maybe I was making $500,000 a year, but you don't spend everything you got. You take care of it, and for generations and generations of your family, you can be successful.
That's amazing. I just see the actual mantle being passed down to your sons, because each one of them are doing something different.
Absolutely.
Of what you've already gone through, but they've just taken a little piece of you and your wife, and they're operating in it to be a blessing to other people, to change generations. Are you a proud father?
I am. A lot of people say, you don't want to gloat.
Yeah.
But I am proud. I thank God that I took the time to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that was the most important thing, to be there. We had our ups and downs. We went through some things. But the thing is, I was always there. We went through it together.
Right.
And now that my kids are doing well, and Michael's presenting, and he's capturing the audience, and the schools really recognize what he's doing as a vital tool to the modern day athlete.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful.
What would you say to the high school student, the young man that's watching us, is probably in school right now, that's watching Facebook Live, and they see Michael Haddix, NFL star? What would you say to him right now? He's a senior, and he's contemplating, where do I go? How do they make these decisions to stay on that God-driven path? What would you say to him?
Well, I would say that knowledge is king first. You have to get that knowledge and that education in order to do anything.
Yeah.
And if you aspire to play professional sports or anything like that, there's no dumb athletes.
Mm-hmm.
There's no dumb jocks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to prepare yourself. And if you get in the huddle and somebody calls a play and you don't know what to do, then you're not going to be there.
My God.
So knowledge is king.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that these guys are looking at sports as an avenue to the rest of their lives and their families' lives.
Yeah.
And to be able to take care of them.
What set you apart from the average athlete? Because I've taught several, and one of the things that I always tell them, there has to be something different that sets you apart from the rest. You have to have a routine. You have to get up when everybody else is sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reminded of this one kid that I taught last year, Mikael Williams.
Okay.
And he did a presentation. And 3 words I gave them was what, how, and why. What do you want to do? How you going to do it, and why?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I want to go to the NFL. And I said, how are you going to do this? And he did this on his board. And he said, when everybody else is sleeping, I'm grinding. Mm. He said, I got to pump. I got to move. I got to shake. You know, use all these slogans. Okay. I have no clue what they're talking about. And then I said, why? He said, because I got to make my mom proud.
Okay.
That's what's going to drive me.
Okay.
And so I want to just ask you to just really, in these few minutes that's left, to just talk to that athlete. He came to my mind because it was in his eyes that, Ms. Tubbs, I got to succeed. I got to get my mom out of this. Mm-hmm. So was it something on the inside of you that said, my family's depending on me? Mm-hmm. What set you apart from everyone else? And would you just share some wisdom with those athletes to let them know that you have to be different? Something has to be different. Not only your attitude of how fast, but something has to be different.
Yeah, well, I took on, I never wanted to be stereotyped. Mm-hmm. And I think they stereotype athletes as being bulk, mm-hmm. brawn, and no brains.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, but I never wanted to be stereotyped. I took the course in a different direction. When all guys were getting out of football and going into coaching, I wanted to do something different because I wanted to dispel the myth that all athletes could do is be a part of sports.
Right.
So I went into the mental health field and I dealt in a different environment. Mm-hmm. I really believe that your brain power is the most important thing. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm creative every day. I take 8 hours a day where somebody might go to work, and I think for 8 hours a day on how to be an entrepreneur, how to expand on what I'm doing already. Mm-hmm. So if people took the time to really think on things like that, rather than going to a job and focusing on getting that paycheck on Friday, you know what it's going to be every Friday. Mm-hmm. You know, you're not being creative. Mm-hmm. You're not exploring all the things that you could do in your life.
Right.
So I really think that, you know, I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I've tried different things. I've done different things. And I just think that the educational piece at Mississippi State has taken me far beyond than football could ever.
Wow.
So.
Wow. I tell you, it has been an honor and a pleasure to sit on set with you. Thank you so very much. God bless you. Godspeed. Blessings to you. Wow, God, wow is all I can say. I just want to just encourage you as you were speaking, those that are watching me, think on purpose. Every day, wake up and say, God, you know what? Give me wisdom. Give me strategy. Show me where I need to be, who I need to connect with. It's time for you to think on purpose. But not only that, it's time for you to live your best life now. Well, guess what, you guys? My time is definitely up. I pray that you have enjoyed this segment. Thank you for joining us on the Tammy Tubbs Show. As I always say, remember, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And until then, be blessed.
It's a beautiful day. Yeah, yeah, yeah.